Hello, hello. Good evening, good evening. Good afternoon, everyone. I haven't seen the sunlight in a bit. Welcome, welcome. I'm Amani, founder and lead programmer of Proof Film Festival. Thank you all for being here for what we've had now as kind of a little annual panel of our next steps panel from short to a feature. We have some amazing filmmakers who have done this path before, who are going to speak about it. We've got some great people here with some great accolades. I think a bunch of y'all went to Sundance, so you may have seen each other.
I wasn't there.
Oh,
It's on. I didn't even turn mine on because I didn't go to Sundance.
So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. We're going to have some moderated time here, and then we'd love some audience questions, so we'll open it up for audience questions later. But for now, I'll have our panelists introduce themselves and what project they worked on. Caroline?
Hi, my name is Caroline Lindy, and I directed and wrote the film Your Monster. That came out a few years ago.
Hi, my name is Michael Vlamis, and I co-wrote, directed, produced, and acted in a psychological thriller called CROSSWORD that's still on the festival circuit now.
My name is Jim Cummings, and I have gone from short to feature several times, and I run a lab in Malibu called the Short to Feature Lab, where we bring short filmmakers out to then workshop going from a short to feature.
Hi, I'm River Gallo, and I didn't direct. Sorry, I wrote, produced, and starred in Pony Boy that came out last year at Sundance.
Amazing. Thank you all for being here, for making the time. We're really fortunate to have these opportunities where filmmakers who are going on this path or thinking about this path can hear from you directly and maybe even talk to you later and ask you some questions during audience Q&As. But let's start out with all these different journeys. A lot of your paths look similar in some ways, but also look different. So Caroline, why don't you start with you wrote and directed the short film. What kind of started you on the path with the short for Your Monster?
How did I come up with the concept, or how did it come about making the short?
And did you already know that you wanted to make a feature when you made the short?
Okay, yes. I did know I wanted to make a feature. I had this idea. I had this personal thing happen to me, and I thought, this is a cool idea. If you don't know the movie, it's about a girl who has had a really horrible year. She's been diagnosed with cancer, and her boyfriend at the time has broken up with her, and she is kind of falling apart and discovers there's a monster in her closet, and they end up kind of falling in love. It's about, forming a relationship with your inner rage, essentially. And so I had this idea for the short, and I was like, okay, how am I going to get the funding for it? And so I applied to every grant program on the planet, and I got one from Women in Film, and they award their grant recipients $20,000 to make a short. So I had the feature. I knew about this grant, and it was to make a short, and so I took the feature and put it into a 15-page short script, and then I shot the short. And then from there, do you want me to continue on to the path?
We'll get back to that.
Hold off. I figured I don't want to write.
That's great. Of just what kickstarted the short film path. I think a big question that people have when they're going on the proof of concept journey is how do I get the short? Where do I get the money for the short? So going through grants. Do you know if that grant still exists? It sounds like
I don't know if they. I know they're gonna bring it back.
Oh, cool.
I think last time I spoke to them, they were really trying to bring it back. Yeah. But yes, I always say, I know it's hard, but just apply to every single grant program under the sun. Just search the web, and if there's a 500 to apply to every single one of them.
Totally. Amazing. Michael, so I bet a lot of people, this might be a surprise to some people that there is a short to your feature, because you didn't go through the festivals with it.
No.
You didn't it's not even online yet. I got to see it, and it's great. And I was like, why didn't you submit this to festivals? But you used it as just a kind of private tool for financiers. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of the concept started like trapped in a house with my best friends during COVID, doing the crossword every morning. And then just one day being like, oh, it'd be pretty weird if the clues and answers started to pertain to our lives and our surroundings. And then I realized that there's not a movie like that. I don't know how. And I was dealing with something personal as well, like so many first-time features. And then that kind of got written into this story of, you know, if you don't deal with guilt and grief, it will consume you if you don't at least try to face it. And so we wrote the feature first, hoping to make it as like a COVID movie for a very low budget, and it just got a little bigger and got away from us for that. And then, you know, when you're trying to raise money, how do you get people to believe in you? And so I should have applied for a bunch of grants. I wish I was at this panel earlier. I was not. And so basically we made our short for like $2,000 and all in, and I just started sending that to anybody and everybody who I thought maybe would be interested in reading the feature. And it really gave people a way better understanding of my capabilities. And I also had the lead actor opposite me in the short as well, same DP as the short that would be doing the feature. So it was kind of a team packaged effort to show people that if you like this at all and you like the script, maybe we can produce something decent.
Totally. You made in like a day, yeah? With
2 days. 2 days.
2 days.
Yeah,
Amazing.
2 days. It should have been a day. It would have been cheaper.
Sure. $2,000 is not bad. But it's not nothing. And yeah, just finding different pathways to get that initial funding is always something good to talk about. Jim, you've done this before, and you've helped other filmmakers through the path. Do you want to talk about, and I know you've told it to our filmmakers plenty of times before, but Thunder Road in particular, and your thinking behind that short film, and if you had already thought about the feature?
Yeah, so I never thought that it would be a feature, and even like almost a year after I made the short of Thunder Road, I was saying that it couldn't be a feature because that would have to be the climax, and then the previous 70 minutes would be me having a shitty relationship with my mom, and that would be like 8 Mile. And I was like, well, that's a better movie than the one that I can make, so that would suck. So it took me a year to think of that as the opening, and then I was like, oh, that could be good, where it's just like a kitchen sink drama about trying to get your daughter to like you again. And I was like, I could do that. That feels like Mike Judge. I could do that. But then really I did the short as this weird kind of performance art because I was working at a comedy company at the time, and we were making a lot of stuff that wasn't very funny and wasn't very important. And I really didn't like this guy that I worked with. And I was like, driving there to work and home, and I was like, I'm going to make something so good it's going to bury this guy in the ground. And so really it was pettiness that got me off the couch to do it. Ambition, I think, is probably the correct word. But really I made it thinking it would be very cool if it was like at best a Vimeo staff pick. And like I had these little benchmarks and landmarks that could be cool amongst my community to try and establish myself as a storyteller. And then I made 9 more single take short films after that one because I feel like I still wasn't very good as a speaker of movies, how you speak the language of 90-minute cinema. I don't think I would be very good at it if I'd gone from that short to then doing 90 minutes. So I made 9 more single take short films, and then I was like, all right, I think now I can probably do the feature of Thunder Road. And then we shot it in Austin with a Kickstarter campaign, and it did well.
Amazing. How was that Kickstarter campaign? Just like, yeah, getting the money together.
I think we raised $36,000, and it was from people who I never would have met going to any film festival in the world. I could have gone to all of them and still wouldn't have met these people. And that's kind of been my experience, where there were people who invested in the Thunder Road feature Kickstarter that have since gone from a $2,000 investment to like a $50,000 investment for the next things, where they're like, there's just strangers from the internet who are perverts who really want to be able to support the stuff that I do and my team. And that has been so rewarding to be able to dodge and circumvent conventional legacy corporate entertainment, to be able to make stuff that ends up on the same platforms. I didn't realize that career path was even possible, but now through technology it is, and it's very vibrant. I suggest everybody do it.
Yeah, amazing. Love that. And River, so you did direct the short film for Pony Boy. What was kind of the impetus of that? And again, were you already thinking about a feature?
So I went to film school, and Pony Boy was my thesis film. So it was homework. But the impetus of it was that I just felt like when I was at film school, this just real frustration at creating work for professors as opposed to for myself. And so Pony Boy really became this work where I was trying to revisit some of the things that I was doing in theater before I came to film school. And so it became, an iteration of a theater piece that I had worked on 10 years before. And in terms of the feature, I always knew that I wanted to make it into a feature because I was like, I want a career after film school. And I just knew that from the beginning of making the short that it had to be a feature that tapped into a lot of the things that I was thinking about my own identity and gender at the time. And when the short went to festivals, I then found producers who wanted to develop it into the feature, and found private investors. So it was like the opposite of that, of shortcutting. It was like direct. It became direct access to money based on something that I worked on by spending a lot of money at film school.
Totally.
Yeah. Shout out to people with film school debt.
Yes. I feel like we've gotten every year of proof. We have thesis films, especially from AFI, where you're kind of shout out to AFI. And they're just so great. So when you're coming out of film school, and it's like, it's a good catalyst to have of like, the thesis film that I worked on that I'm like super proud of, it's spent a lot of money on, there's more to it. So that's a good thing.
I feel like it's the only thing that is smart to do with film school is to come out with either a short or a script that could be either sold or made into a feature. Otherwise, what the fuck are you doing there? Because it's like, you have to get a return on your investment from film school. So I think a lot of people get lost in that, going to film school, just trying things out and forgetting the fact that there's a lot of energy and financial investment in film school that you have to leave with something that can make it worthwhile.
Totally. And this leads to another question I have. So after you had the short, River, it was taking it to festivals and finding collaborators through that. Once you all had your short films, what were those immediate next steps? What did those look like in terms of, were you doing drafts of the feature or reaching out to, I'm sure you'll talk about this, Michael, like industry folks? Like, what did those initial next steps look like once you had the short film done? Whoever wants to pop it. We don't have to go in order. But we can.
So after I did the short, your monster short, it was COVID. I didn't go to any, I got into festivals with it, but I didn't actually get to go. And I just felt a little bit like, I've always thought, if you're going to get someone to invest some money into your idea, like, you have to present yourself as a good investment. Like, you don't have to be afraid to give me money, because I'm a good place to invest your money. And so I have to prove myself and show my resume. It's like, look what I've done. Like, I have done the work necessary in order to make the next step to a feature. And so I was like, okay, I've made a bunch of shorts. I'm directing commercials. Now I have to make up shorts that win awards. And so I made a few shorts. I started getting more awards. I got the grant. And then I was like, no, next short. Monster, I got a grant, but I didn't really get to see any of the fun from the festivals. I need to make a short that like makes a splash at a bigger festival. And how am I going to do that? So I knew I was kind of like one or two shorts away from getting that, going to an investor and being like, I'm ready. And so I kind of targeted, I was like, I want to get a short into South by, and I want to get an award from South by. And I did that. And so then I had this resume, and I was like, I want to make your monster into a feature, so I'm going to talk to as many people I know who know investors. And I found someone and a friend who wanted to produce, and she knew this investor, and I went to him, this private investor, and I was like, here you go, look at my resume, I've done the things, like, take a chance on me, and like I've won as many awards and gotten as many grants as I can, and now you should take me seriously. And he did. So yeah, I mean, it's like no one's gonna just give you, I mean, unless you have like unless you're a genius, which is, you know, some people might just throw money at you, fine, and you have a genius concept. But most people don't want to invest $2 million of their money in you unless you're like, I've done the work. So I really think, yeah, it's just focus on your resume before you go to the big investors.
Totally. And did you have one investor, or you had multiple?
No, I had one. I was like,
wow,
this is my chance. And it wasn't like there was a million people knocking on my door. There was no one knocking on my door. No one cared. No one wants to give you money. So I had to beg, barter, and steal.
Totally.
Get there.
Yes, we'll get more into the financier part of it too, because I know there's like, that's a big question. It's like, where do I find people? How do I pitch? What are those like tips in terms of, you know, locking the deal, sealing the deal? Michael, did you have thoughts?
Yeah, well, the big thing, I thought, because we wrote a contained film that's an interesting concept, like people would jump at the bit to invest in it because maybe there's a big payoff. But what I learned was that the budget was so small, a lot of these companies that we were sending the script to weren't even interested, because it's not even going to cover, the 10% is not even going to cover anything that, you know, they need to make their money back, right? So I'm like, hey, you can make this at a low budget and we can have high return. And they're like, but it doesn't guarantee us money up front, and so we're not going to bother with it. And then it's like, okay, now we got to make a short to try to raise independently. And so we did that. The only reason it was 2K is because I did everything on that, or as much as I physically could. You know, I had to teach myself how to edit again and all of those things from being a kid. You know, I did that as a kid and then stopped doing it for years. But basically, once we had the short, you know, honestly, it started with I was home in Chicago for the holidays, and I was hanging out with a buddy, and I was telling him about the short, and he was like, oh, that sounds cool. He was like, I didn't even know I was raising yet, you know. I knew I wanted to, and I was trying to, and he was like, I would probably throw like $5,000 on that. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, let me watch the short though. So we play it, and then he looks at me and goes, I'll throw 10 on it. And he says, go to the closet. And I go, what? He said, yeah, go to the closet. You can grab 10 grand. And then from there, you know, it was just, okay, who wants to watch this short, and who wants to talk about it, and who wants to share it? And honestly, I was doing acting in a movie, and one of the background that I befriended in this bar scene I was in, just talking in between takes, she was an investor of that movie. I had no idea. And she was like, what are you working on, man? And I was like, oh, this thing. And she was like, all right, I'll throw some money on that. And I was like, cool. And then I had written the Mac Miller biopic that was on the Blacklist with my writing partner, Kyle Anderson. And we had also written CROSSWORD together. And so we actually optioned that for a third of the budget, you know, for 3 years after writing it, right? So, like, you write all these things, they sit, maybe you get some accolades, they don't get made, you option them, they go nowhere, but they're still alive, you know? And that's what I've learned over and over again. Everything that we're putting out there will come back to you eventually, hopefully. And that's kind of the process, right? Like, yours is so interesting. You, like, set goals, and you make it happen. You know, I'm just kind of like, who's got 10K in cash in their closet? But that was our process. You know, that was our process, and it came together finally.
Totally. It's different for everyone. You all have like such different paths, which I love. Jim, what were those immediate next steps like for you?
There's a really great, I'm sure everybody's seen it, there's a really great panel keynote speech by Mark Duplass from South by Southwest 2013.
Cavalry.
The cavalry is not coming. And in that he says, you'll get 1,000 meetings with people and nothing will come of it. And it's very true. And that was in the mid-2010s, and it's only gotten 1,000 times worse than that. From my experience, I know a lot of people have golden bullets or are like able to make it work, and it's never worked for me. I'm a very good diplomat. I'm a very bad politician. I got into this to make stuff that you can't see on TV, and a lot of people, when they read something, will say, "I will get fired if we make this thing." And so I'm very glad that I get to play in my little side of the sandbox, and often. You know, necessity is the mother of invention. If we need to make this thing, how do we do it? And it's very rarely going through conventional financing. It's the internet. Like I'm also very lucky in that I was very active on social media, and then was making good stuff that was celebrated that people could see. We had 2 films come out during the pandemic. I made a werewolf picture and then a film about packaging agents. And both of them did well. And so because of that, people were curious as to how we did it. And so I kind of built a small audience of people that were just interested, so that when I would say, hey, I'm trying to do this other thing that could be very big, people rally round. But immediately after winning Sundance, we had a lot of people bring me in to say exactly what you experienced of, well, I only need 200 grand to make it. And then the executives there would say, well, I'm making commission on whatever the budget is. So if you can make it a $6 million movie, come back to us. If you can get Jake Gyllenhaal involved, and I was like, well, I don't know Jake Gyllenhaal. Like, I'd be him. I was like, but you like the short. I'm in the short. Like, why am I in this room? Like, you brought, like,
What's going on?
all of this, like, the weird 1984 corporate doublespeak is what I went through. And nothing came of it. But then I made the feature independently with friends and family and strangers on the internet, a Kickstarter campaign. We shot it for 190 grand in Austin with my friends and family. And then one of the people who had liked my werewolf web series said, after we won South by Southwest, hey, what's going on with that werewolf thing? They responded to the email chain that they had said, we don't like this project, thank you so much. But it was because we had won that they were like, oh yeah, what's going on with this thing? I loved it forever. I mean, I loved it from the very beginning. And so like that literally, Skylar's in that one. Skylar's in the werewolf movie with me. But really it had nothing to do with the marketplace of ideas or the quality of the script. It's just this bizarro stock market. And so I follow the Steven Soderbergh thing of one for them and one for you. And for the last couple, I mean, they're all for me, but
Yes.
I feel very lucky that we've been able to do unconventional means of raising funds.
Totally. A lot of good stuff there, especially with like, the kind of run around and like, wait, what are we doing? I just want to make this movie. But eventually getting to that point where it's like, okay. And either whether you're raising independently or, find that an investor who believes in you. I would love to talk about the financing piece a little more because did you have anything else to add with the next episode? It was like festivals and.
Yeah, no, it was similar journey to everyone's here, and also during COVID. And it was through, a general that I had with a friend that worked at Lena Waithe's production company, who then passed on the movie but then got a job at a different production company and then pitched it to a different person. So just like you said, you don't know where it's going to go and who it's going to be, but I believe that like a work of art attracts the people necessary that are going to make it come to life. So that was my journey.
Great stuff there. With the financing piece, because there's a lot of artists in here, and sometimes the numbers of the business side of things, it's like no, don't want to think about that. But with like having these meetings with, folks that can be collaborators and provide the funds necessary. What did those meetings look like, and what would you say to someone who's about to go into into one of those meetings? And were there materials that moved the needle? Obviously, you had the short, but was there anything else? Lookbooks, your personalities.
Go for it. I want to be insulting. Go for it.
No. Well, I was just going to say, I mean, you can't, I don't know what your experiences have been like, but like, just be prepared to just, how do I say this? Because we're being filmed, but like, it just, you have to have, I guess, you just,
We can cut this part out. I love real talk.
No, it's like you gotta be fucking tough, because sometimes it sucks to get into a room and someone says things to you that you don't want to hear. Like I felt, it's really hard to talk about. To express, but you just have to be prepared to for it to be a tough conversation, for your feelings to get hurt, for people to feel, for you to feel like you're not good enough yet. You haven't proven yourself. Like, if you fuck this up, it's gonna be a huge issue. Like, you have to be prepared for that when someone says, why the fuck am I gonna invest in you? Like, what happens if you lose all my money? That's kind of and it's, what are you gonna say? How are you gonna make this person believe in you? And it's like, I'm a nice girl, and like, I'm not much of a businesswoman, but like, you got to put your business hat on, and this is as much as an artistic endeavor as it is a business. Like, unless you want to make like little tiny art house films for the rest of your life, like, we're talking money here, like, you really have to put your business pants on, and with certain types of investors. I mean, we're talking about money here. So like, you got to be prepared for that. You got to get prepared for your feelings to get hurt, or just to have thick skin and say, I know you don't believe in me now, but look, I made the most amazing deck, and I know exactly what this film looks like, and you should feel safe to invest in me. And that's hard to do. I'm still terrible at it. Like, I'm still figuring out how to do that. But I think what really helps is having belief in your story, because that always has shielded me when I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm an idiot and I don't know why I'm doing this and this is awful. Like, I think, oh, but I really believe in this story, and that's going to make me persevere here, because it's like, you might not believe in me, but what I have here is gold. And I know audiences are going to love this, and I know audiences need it. And that kind of has driven me forward. Wow, sorry, I just got passionate.
So good. Anyone else want to hop in? We don't have to go in order. Jim has something to say. Jim has something to say.
I'm really bad at that stuff, which is why I've had to, use the internet instead. I will say that I stopped using decks, and I make videos where it's like a snazzy video of me talking about it like I'm Alfred Hitchcock, because that's the medium that I'm trying to get investment for. So showing off that at least that is really well crafted is like, okay, this person knows what they're doing in that. And it's become a lot more common. It's like some people are using AI artwork to do these decks and send it out to people. Sometimes they're recording their scripts as a podcast, which I do suggest you do. I do it for every one of my scripts. It'll help you realize that one of the scenes sucks and that it should be part of another one. It's really helpful. You can hear the movie first before you send it out to anybody. And then people are, lazy. It's very sad to sit and read a 90-page script. It's easier to listen to it on a commute, especially put music in and stuff like that, which is what we do. But really, I'm quite bad at taking notes from people who have never edited a YouTube video before, and have gotten into these positions for most of our research through nepotism or through pretending like they know what they're talking about. And just to go fully on my hobby horse, we have these things called development executives. And really, the reason they have those jobs is because they have great ideas about stuff. but none of them are successful writers. Having great ideas would be, we already have that job. It's called a writer. Can you imagine reading something from a development executive? It's like, kill me, you know? The whole enterprise is based around this lapdoggery, glad-handing court of Versailles because we need fucking health care. So we gotta suck up to these people or our kids are gonna be on the street. And it's a really ugly, which is why I use the internet instead.
Yeah, on that note, a little bit of after the, like, when, like, the deal's about to get, like, locked, I found that, like, you just have to be charming, and just as much as being a snake salesman or snake oil salesman as, like, the execs are on the other side, and just, like, promise the world. And then when the deal's signed, then you could, you know, fight back a little bit more. But until the deal is signed, like, you know, you really have to charm the shit out of people. And
I love that note. You're so smart. How'd you
yeah,
even come up with that?
Great note. And then, you know, when we're shooting, you'd be like, absolutely not. I'm not taking that note. Because I really do think, like, just like you said, it's a business. And to act, I think sometimes, oh God, I'm not saying to lie, but what I'm saying is, for the sake of getting the work done, if that's like your North Star, sometimes you need to manage people's emotions a little bit and make them feel like they're making the choice, but really you're sort of manipulating the situation to favor what you want instead. And it's I mean, it's disgusting, but like it's also late stage capitalism. So it's like,
Yes.
all's fair, you know?
It's where we are. It's where we are, and it's like, it's a balance. And
It's a thank
art.
you, it's a balance.
I think one thing too that was interesting for my process was I had a little bit of money saved that I wanted to put into the movie. So I guess actually when I talked to that guy who had the cash, I had a certain amount of money raised already from myself. And a lot of people told me, like, don't tell these people you're going out to that you're investing in your own movie. It looks a little like, I don't know, amateur in a way. But I was like, but I am, and I'm not going to hold that back. I'm proud of the fact that I'm believing in myself, you know? And so I told a lot of people that. And when I told them the money I was putting in, they were like, oh, all right, this guy believes in himself enough to put that money in. Maybe I should too. And so that actually helped. So I think if you have any money, anything like that, it just shows that you will go above and beyond and you know, do everything you can for the art. I think that just gets people to be fired up and believe in you.
Yeah. And Michael, you had produced before, like produced other people's stuff before you directed your directorial debut.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you were kind of taking into the process of producing for others that you were taking into your own?
Yeah, so much of like setting your movie up for success prior to shooting it. That's what I learned the most on like the first feature I produced, you know. But when it came to financing, it was a similar process, and also the same thing happened on my movie that it did on the first movie I produced and acted in, which was when we went into shooting, we didn't have all the money. And then people who said no before to financing the movie saw that we're posting on Instagram that we're shooting the movie all of a sudden, and they go, oh, you got the money. And I go, oh, we're actually a little short. And they go, oh, are you shooting this week? We'd love to come to set. And then they come out to set, and next thing you know, you get the rest of your money the next day all of a sudden because you're just getting rewarded, going back to Duplass, for doing the thing, you know? And the same thing happened on CROSSWORD. We got a huge chunk of money like a week and a half into filming that we needed.
It's a balance.
It's faith. It's just pushing the boulder up the hill.
Because you get like kind of a backup plan of like, well, what if we don't, right?
Backups just keep, I guess I'll have to do everything for free.
Totally. Love it. And so, okay, the deal's signed, there's contracts are signed, the investors are in. Going into the feature, what were you kind of taking with you from the short into that feature experience? A lot of it were y'all's first features. So what was maybe unexpected too about taking on the feature projects?
I think I was very conscious of making sure like that the essence and the soul of the movie stayed the same, but knowing that I had to be flexible of what belonged and didn't belong, and how much it was going to naturally change, because they are two distinct different artworks. For me, what I found in the feature, it took on like I didn't expect it, but it took on a crime thriller element that the short did not have, and that was really surprising to me. But also, it made sense in the world of New Jersey, and adding like a mafia element to it. I was also always a big fan of Quentin Tarantino, so it's like it almost like it made sense somehow. But also, I found it was a way to kind of put a little bit of a maybe a commercial kind of spin, or maybe even a way to put a queer sensibility on a genre that's usually cis-normative and straight. And then that became the way that I put my own spin on this genre. But that was all like I had no idea that was going to happen. But it made sense to go for a short that I did for like $50K to a movie that I did for $3 million, that we would want people to have this Trojan horse where they were going to get this coming of age queer identity story wrapped around this crime thriller that is something that's sellable. And so yeah, that's what I did, and I'm really happy that I did that, because I always say there's a version of Pony Boy that went from short to feature that would have been more true to the kind of just queer drama that I did in the short film. But that version of the movie didn't get made, because maybe it would have never have gotten made, because at the time of 2020, like peak COVID, people weren't taking a lot of risks. And I mean, are they taking risks now? I don't know. but it was the movie got made, this version of the movie got made because it needed to get made, because of the elements that I added to and the evolution of the short that created something that people said, here's $3 million to go make it. So yeah.
Totally. Anyone else? Because I have a slight follow up to that, and I think it applies to you too, Caroline. But we can go with the production side of things and kind of prepping for that. Yeah.
Production side of things, of how do we do it?
Yeah.
So it was about a year and a half after we had won Sundance. I think the film was already online, and we ran the Kickstarter campaign. I had written the film and recorded it as a podcast, and I knew it back to front. I knew it had to be over and over and over again. I think my character's in every scene, so it was a very different kind of filmmaking. It wasn't like I had to do thousands of hours of rehearsals. It was like I could just do it like it's a podcast and then memorize it, muscle memory kind of thing. There's a good quote from Alfred Hitchcock. He says, by the time I show up on set, the movie's already done. They just have to diddle around with the lights. And it's very true for that one. And so we made the film, and then I felt very grateful for my little team. We all stayed in this Airbnb when we were shooting it in Austin. We had friends who loaned us little places to shoot and stuff, and painted some cars to make them look like cop cars and things like that. It was very much a summer camp for 14 days, so how long we shot it. And then it got into South by Southwest and won. And I had good encouragement. There was a program by Sundance called the Creative Distribution Fellowship, and Kogonada had just done it for his film Columbus. And I think that film cost $750,000, and I think he made $800,000 in the first year from self-distributing. And so we were only getting terrible offers for the feature that won South by Southwest based on the short that won Sundance. And so it was less than half of the budget. I think it was like $100,000 or something like that was the highest offer that we got for distribution of Thunder Road. And so we put it out independently and targeted adults who like Pixar on Facebook, because there's a lot of cursing in this movie, but usually people laugh and cry while watching it. I was just interested in like understanding who the audience was. And then we put it on iTunes and Google Play, and it came out around the world, and it's been the best financial decision of my life to put it out that way. And I haven't looked back. It's been nice to just have a first offer on the table. It just happens to be us anytime we make something. So cracking the code on financing and distribution were the two biggest problems that I saw. It's still a problem, but it is an educational issue. If you look it up, these things are very possible for anybody that wants to make movies. And I think it is the future. I think the world is going to be a bit more like YouTube, where you're making stuff and the cream rises to the top, and anybody can do it.
Yeah, love that. Anyone else want to speak on that kind of jump from shorts to features? Because it is a big jump, and you just touched on it with the budget river of going from, you know, 2K to suddenly there's $1 million, and then suddenly there's $2 million. So what did you kind of learn about those?
I had never directed anything dramatic prior to making a psychological thriller. I had just made a bunch of comedies. So obviously I'm very thankful that I made the short for CROSSWORD. I learned a lot, but the coolest thing was I got to play with like specific lenses, these macro lenses that I wanted to see how that would feel on the newspaper. The style of how I wanted to shoot it, how I was thinking about envisioning coloring it, how is the relationship on screen, what's coming across the most. So just a big like testing ground for what the feature presented it as. But honestly, I don't really think anything, like it prepares you for what you're about to get into, but doing an 11-minute short film and then you get Harvey Guillén for one day on set, 13 pages, and you got to do it day 3 of directing your first feature, you're never going to be fully ready. And I think that is something that holds people back sometimes too, because it is a little scary. I probably should spend more time getting ready for things, but I've just never been that way. It's just kind of like, go, touch the pan, you're going to get burned. Hopefully you can hold it long enough, And so I think that's kind of a style that sometimes you need to have, though, in order to make a feature, because it is so hard. And then we're talking to distributors now for our movie. And what you're saying, man, I want to talk to you privately about what you guys did, because the offers are tough out there. And we're finally, after a year on the festival circuit, starting to get like solid offers from companies that I respect, And still it's harder than it was pre-COVID, So that seems to be the path that a lot of people are kind of talking about, kind of having ownership of your movie. But then that costs raising more money, right? Maybe for P&A or doing another Kickstarter or, sure. I'll ask him.
Yes, they're gonna meet up. Yes, Caroline.
I think everyone was kind of touching at this, but I prepared so much before our first day of shooting, but like so much of it just went out the window. Like you have to adapt every single day. Like things change, one disaster after another. When you have a low budget indie film, it was just like chaos every single day. And I did my best to be like, okay, we're just gonna get through this day somehow, some way. But like if I had just personally, I know probably some other people could do it, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to let go of a lot of these things that I had hoped and dreamed would go in the movie that just, we don't have the time, we don't have the resources, the actors don't feel this way, this person doesn't feel it, you just kind of have to be a leader, listen to your team, do the best that you can with what you have, and make that movie. And that's what River was saying. It's like I didn't know that it was gonna go that way, but it did, and that is what filmmaking is. Filmmaking is not you have this idea and executing it perfectly. It's being able to, when it's time to execute, that you are able to take everything thrown at you and make something good given the circumstances. And because it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be something that goes wrong. There's always going to be something that devastates you. And you just got to keep going. And those who can keep going and make it to the end, and there's a movie, those are the ones who are a success story. Even if your movie doesn't do anything and no one sees it or it doesn't make any money, like you are a success if you finish a film. Like that is, a feature film, like that is a huge accomplishment. So yeah, to be able to just, again, persevere. Yeah, it's important.
Love it. And then one more before we go out to the audience, okay, your questions ready. But I wanted to go back to some of the financing piece, because something that comes up in financing is also casting with a feature film. And there's the chicken and the egg situation of you got to get the money to get the cast, you got to get the cast to get the money. You two were like in your movies, Michael and Jim, but I'm sure you still have some things to touch on with this. But like River, you have a fabulous actor, Dylan O'Brien, in your film. Caroline, you have some attachments too. So what were those conversations like? And did it get any like tricky at all with like having the short and having people that were in the short who maybe you have a conversation with them and they're not in the feature?
Do you want to go? I hate celebrities more than anything in the whole world.
The development
I hope they all
execs?
choke to death. I think Aurora winning Best Picture is the best thing to happen to real filmmaking, where you can cast somebody who's kind of famous but isn't on Instagram, and then everybody else in the film is a non-actor and is incredible, just like people that you can find who's actually best for that role. And I think there's this really bizarre thing that's happening with packaging and casting to convince the people that hold the purse strings that they're going to be able to get a selfie at a premiere with The Rock. And then that makes you a real filmmaker if you're an executive. It's pathetic. It's just so sad. And like, go to fucking Madame Tussauds if you want a picture with a celebrity. But it feels like that kind of autograph signer, pathetic fucking king of comedy character that runs this town, when it's not really the best people who are best for it. I mean, I'm not a trained actor, but I really cared about it. And so I speak on behalf of all these people who are just not given opportunities. We always talk about that, like finding new faces, people who deserve it, who had the training or whatever, and instead we're giving it to basketball players who thought that it would be a good idea to be or like, oh, it's cool that this person's really good, and then we could put them in the film because they're famous. And it ruins a lot of filmmaking, and it forces the hands of directors to try to get a good performance out of somebody who is absolutely dreadful and doesn't have doesn't really care about the thing. So we never try and do that, and instead we try to make films that have the best people in them, regardless. So like if there is a part for somebody who is it's specific. It doesn't have to be anybody. It doesn't matter what your IMDb page is. There's a Filmmaker magazine article that I'm surprised didn't change people's minds, but it came out in 2023, and they interviewed 48 independent filmmakers and their producers. And across the board, unless somebody's in the top 100 star meter on IMDb, it does not move the needle at all. So having somebody who's below that, 101 on, it does not change the financing of the thing at all. So we listened to that and instead was like, all right, well, let's cast the right people and not care about that stuff. And all you have to do is send that article to financiers and be like, we can save half of the budget for something else because it actually doesn't, the money ball on this thing doesn't move the needle. Why don't we just make the best movie that we can? Or do you want a selfie with a celebrity?
That's true. I have, my husband's a filmmaker too, and he makes bigger movies than me. And like when they give financiers or investors, salespeople, they give him the lists of people who he can cast. It's like this many people, and you're like, wait a minute, all those other people who I think are so famous and so successful, like, nope. There's like 2 people that can cast movies, and everyone else is. That's a tangent, but
it's also this weird ad infinitum thing of like, well, we got Naomi Watts to be in this thing. It's like, that's great. Can you also get John Cleese to be the other part? That's awesome that you have this thing. Can you get this other person? And you're forced to do all of the work of what the people's job it is to do the work, so that you can make the package more valuable for them and not the movie and not you. It's insane. It's this weird. Snake eating its own tail. It's very foolish. You got to get out of that.
Yeah, it's a dance. It's a dance. Anyone else?
Tommy Dewey, who is the star of Casual, was already in the short of Your Monster, so he was already attached. But the financier wanted someone who's a little bit more well known. And I played the game, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get you whatever you want. And so I had a list of girls, women who I needed someone who could sing and who could dance, who liked doing indie films, but it was in, studio movies, blah, blah, blah. And Melissa Barrera, who stars in my movie, I was a fan of hers, but then I also knew people. We had mutual friends, and I was like, it helps. It helps that to get those people to read when they're sent a lot of different material, and like she had just finished a Scream, and so she was like really busy, and my friend, I was like, can you tell Melissa that I'm sending her a script? And that really helped. Like, she was like, okay, great. She read it immediately. I was in London at the time. She was like, I'm down to meet. I flew literally the next day to meet her. I didn't want to waste any time for her to rethink. I was like, my financer approves of her. I hear she's lovely to work with. She's just finishing this Scream. Like, go, go, go. And the thing also, I was like, I need to find someone who hasn't done this specific genres, because that will help. I think that also helps if you're trying to get a certain type of celebrity and you're like, I haven't made a feature. Like, how do I convince them? Find someone who's like, I'm making a horror and they've only done rom-coms. Then it's like, isn't it time that we see you in a new type of genre? Like, I will take a chance on you if you take a chance on me. That kind of can incentivize certain actors to try something with an unknown director, because it's like, you both are experimenting together. So that's what Melissa and I had, and it worked out.
That's great. You know? Yeah.
Agree with everything that's been said. Casting's one of the most, especially as an actor, one of the most disheartening things to discover, that it just is about a list of famous people before actual talent. And then people self-taping and people watching self-tapes, knowing that actors have put their hearts and efforts towards making a self-tape, but we're not even looking at them because we're just waiting on, like, whatever, Naomi Watts' response. To offer a different perspective as well, I do think as there is something about, for a first-time feature director, to be in the mix, for different actors of that caliber to be reading your scripts so that they know you exist, because who knows, it might lead to them following or tracking your career. That might make the next movie that you do an easier pathway for them to want to be a part of it. Or it's about the balance, I guess, about playing the game. To be like, okay, I'm down to play this capitalist investor. What did you call it? Selfie? What?
The Court of Versailles.
Right. And knowing that eventually hopefully the right actor will be on board. With my movie, getting Dylan O'Brien he's become one of my closest friends from it. And if I didn't do that, like, lists of all the famous actors, and he wasn't even at the top of the list. There were like, I forget who was at the top of the list. It was someone crazy. I think it was like, I can't even remember his name. But yeah, like it wouldn't have led me to Dylan. And also the reality is Dylan had so much experience. That's the other thing about actors of that caliber. They have been on so many sets. And hopefully if they're a good person, they're nice to be around too, and they're experienced. And it makes when you're shooting an indie film and you have 2 takes for something, you want the person to get it the first or second time and it be usable, as opposed to, an actor who maybe has less experience and can't get it in 1 or 2 takes. So that, just to put a little counterpoint to the hellscape that is casting, sometimes, going with someone with the experience, and as an actor, I think it actually made my performance better, because surrounding myself with actors like Dylan or Murray Bartlett, they taught me about acting, because they were so incredible to work with and really kind people and lovely people, that it gave me hope that, at its best, making a first feature is about making people who are talented and also just really amazing to be around.
Totally. And I feel like, just a comment there before I asked Michael his thoughts too, what you two said about or what you said about someone who's just done rom-coms and getting to horror, like I feel like Pony Boy was kind of like an indie resurgence for Dylan in a sense of like now you see him in this cool like indie underground kind of thing stuff, so it can be that kind of like relationship starter or like career kind of turn for someone. So I feel like looking for people who might be like unconventional in what you're thinking can be cool for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, an actor, a high-profile actor, can elevate your career as much as you're elevating their career by being in your film. So it could be a mutual symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, totally. Michael, do you have any thoughts?
I
before we
think
go
also
on?
you'll be surprised at, maybe if you're not going to the top 100, top 1,000, whatever it is on IMDb, but other great actors who are working, right? If you have the privilege of getting someone big or not getting someone big, whatever, I think you will be surprised at the actors out there who maybe are recognizable, maybe have little followings, but are just really talented, who will read your script if you send it. And we took some shots in the dark, like Nick Thune, who's like, a comedian who's, I think, incredible, so talented. But like I feel like he needs to be utilized more. We took a shot over his agent, and the guy actually read it, gave it to Nick, and he came on and he did it, at what our budget was, right? And then same thing with like Harvey Guillén, right? He's so funny, so talented, known for What We Do in the Shadows, but he hadn't really played, he hadn't been necessarily in like a dramatic piece where he is intense and creepy and strange. And so he got to do that too. So yeah, getting creative outside the box, what do you have to offer them? I'm also, as an actor, I mean, I had like 11 auditions 2 weeks ago, and like the audition process in 1 week, like that's just, it's like a blessing, but it's also like, oh my God, I don't want to subject anyone to that. So I didn't make anyone audition. Maybe I understand there's something good about that too. But if you watch someone's work and you see that they are capable, they are talented, they are good, and you believe in them and you sit down with them, I feel like just give them the role. And I did that for everybody in my movie. And it's one of the things that gets talked about the most, the performances, and they were incredible. And just like River said, they help you do your job, when you're making a first-time feature as well, because all you're doing is kind of maybe guiding them a little bit on a take or two, but they're giving you gift after gift, right? Great actors. I cannot stress it enough. Whether you're doing a low budget or a big one, the best actors, you can watch them do nothing. You have to hire great actors to help yourself. For sure.
Totally. Awesome. Well, let's bring it out to the audience. I don't know if we have an audience mic, but folks can raise their hand and say their question out loud, and then I can repeat it for our audio here. So who's got a question? Questions? Yes. Yeah. Question is around marketing and getting eyes on the project after it's done, whether it's in distribution or just building up to the release. What do y'all have to say about marketing?
The most eyeballs that I got, well, there we go. The most eyeballs that I got thank you, River, saved my life, for our Thunder Road trailer was because I was drunk in a movie theater in Raleigh. And I posed next to a poster of my movie, and it's my dumb face next to my dumb face pointing at the poster. And I was wearing socks and sandals and blue jeans, and I posted it to the Pics subreddit, so it was just pictures. I think I said something, I don't remember very well, but I think I said something like, I'm super proud, my dreams came true, the Alamo Drafthouse has taken a chance on me. And people ripped me for my fashion sense. But they saw the poster and they're like, hey, this is pretty cool. You've been a Redditor for 13 years. Local boy makes good. And then the next day, we posted the trailer, even though I had posted the trailer about 8 times beforehand. For whatever reason, because I was a familiar face over the last 24 hours, and we got 1 million, maybe 4 million people to see the trailer, kind of by accident. It was all organic, that kind of stuff you can't pay for. We tried. But really, it was just by having luck and people on the internet that wanted to support in communities. And I attribute a lot of people knowing about me through Reddit. A lot of people make fun of Reddit because it's a seedy place to be, but it is actually the 4th most trafficked website in the United States. Facebook is number 5. So it is a huge number of people who give a shit, and it's also democratically upvoted and downvoted. You get a clear sense as to what the public actually think about something rather than what they say they think about in public. It's anonymous. So yeah, that was my success. Kind of random.
Yeah, thoughts about marketing?
My marketing was more through the studio system, and as many first-time directors, if you ask them, sucks. Like, you would be really surprised at how many people are actually satisfied. But so many like recent first-time filmmakers that I befriended over the last 2 years all say, the trailer sucks. I had to get so many notes. The poster's terrible. I had to give so many notes. And it's like, but at the same time, I realized that it's because as a filmmaker, you know the vision. And sometimes marketing people think that they know because they think they know who they want to market it to. But they don't know their heads from their ass often. So I guess my advice is, if you find yourself in that situation in the studio side, is to be fucking dogged about what you believe your trailer should be, your poster should be. Over the summer when my movie came out in theaters, I was literally on the phone for hours every day to make sure that the marketing campaign was to my liking. And I wasn't getting paid for that. But it was because I cared about the movie and wanted people to see the movie and knew that what they were doing was, I didn't like it. And it turned out to be something that I could at least, that I could post and felt comfortable posting and also was happy and satisfied with. But yeah, it's really, the marketing side can be a really untalked about part of like the filmmaking journey, because you think like, oh, once my script sells, then I won, or once we shoot, then I won, or once I go to the festival or win an award, then I won, or get the distribution, then I won. But then the marketing campaign itself becomes just this ongoing like challenge in the life of an entire project that deserves just as much as attention and care as a filmmaker, specifically indie filmmakers, than it was like when you were writing your script.
I know you have thoughts on this, Michael. You've talked about it before.
Oh, man. Well, before acting popped off, I was head of marketing for a startup watch company out of San Francisco for a while, really making my mom proud with that business degree going to use. And so, I kind of like, I'm so curious, like, learning from the way you guys have done it. I mean, it's fascinating. And being in the position now where, okay, it's time to get this movie out into the world. How is this going to look and go? But I acted in a movie and produced a movie called Pools that came out like a month ago. I think the writer-director Sam Hayes is here somewhere.
Yay!
Yeah, yep. And so basically that movie has Odessa Zion in it, who's in Marty Supreme and I Love L.A., and like she's having an awesome moment. And so it was, but at the end of the day, too, smaller movie as well. Kind of ran, run and gun, shooting in Chicago, and we've had a little success with it. But a lot of that happened because I think it comes down to like event type marketing nowadays for indie film, right? Studios are doing that too, but for indies especially, I feel like how do you make people want to come out and celebrate your movie? And our movie's called Pools. Sam worked his butt off to basically every single screening that we had got you into the pool party that happened afterwards. And it was absolutely ridiculous. And Hollywood Reporter did a cool write-up on us, but it was just like a summer of pool parties. I was so shriveled. And it was so nice, though, because so many people came and got to experiencing something, and that builds a community. And I think that's what indie film especially needs the most, and that's why Reddit is so popular. I mean, that's cool to hear that Reddit helps you like that. Like, it's the community that you're building. So for CROSSWORD, I'm hoping, clues around town, right? Crossword tournaments, because Gen Z's doing the crossword more than any generation ever, with the New York Times app, how accessible and how easy it is to do it. That's all stuff trying to figure out now, and then can't wait to have to manage that with whatever company comes on board. That sounds like a nightmare.
Totally. Awesome. Yes, right here. Yeah, questions around coming off of a short film that's doing well in the circuit, and the strategy with that time that you have for yourself before you're bringing in more cooks into the kitchen. How do you kind of manage that? What were your kind of thoughts and what stage the script was in?
I only let people read it when I feel like it's readable and when it's done. I guess I've heard for like some genre movies, like horror specifically, since it's doing so well right now and having a moment, sometimes people take things off pitches and it could be a little less done. But I would say like other genres, like for me personally as a writer, I had to feel confident in the writing before other people could read it. I also say that it was through the short that I got management and representation, and I think that was a big bridge to then getting, you know, investors, development execs to then read my stuff. So that's like a very small actionable goal to set for a short, to like get representation through a short, because then that creates the avenues to then other people in the industry being able to access your work.
I think I think if you have a proof of concept, an actual short, and you're going into, like, let's say you're going into a festival. Like, I remember for South by, I had this short. I had my monster short from the grant. I had the feature. And so going in, I was like, if this short does anything at South by, I'm ready to go. And so I came in fully prepared. And, yeah, I think just be it. But if you're going into if you have a short, but then you have another idea for a feature, and they don't have anything to do with each other, like Monster wasn't. The script wasn't quite done yet. Like I knew I was working through some things in the script, so I know I needed to. There was a draft of the script, but I knew I wanted to work on it a bit more, and it was going to take a few more months. But I was like, I have the short film already, so it's like I think I can pitch it. But I think what River was saying, you know, like if it's a different concept entirely, have the script in amazing shape, and ready to go when the time comes. But yeah, just have your materials ready. Like, so at any second, when you're at the festival, like if anybody wants it, you can send it in 1 second. Like there's no time to be like, I don't want to read. It's like, nope, you're interested? Here you go. So yeah, just be prepared.
This is kind of terrifying, but I feel like when you make that short and you have the short, you have the feature, and you're raising money, and this depends, right? If you're waiting around for big money, this is a different process, right? I'm talking strictly from like an indie, go get it done yourself mentality. I feel like every time we pick a date that we are shooting, then it happens. And it's so scary to pick that date, but okay, we're doing this in March. And
Show up.
Yeah, show up. And it's December, and I mean, they did that, McConaughey talks about that for Dallas Buyers Club. Yep. You know, they had a date, they had to cut a bunch of lighting, use headlights on cars, you know, to light some scenes. They shot it for like 2.5 instead of 5, and they got it done though. And look at what that did, obviously. That's not my movie, but.
Awesome. Oh, did you have something to say, Jim?
I would say don't wait for someone to give you permission to do the thing. I feel like first off, I know the feeling that you're having right now, and it's awful, isn't it? Where it's like you make the thing, and then you're just waiting for somebody to give it. You'll always have that. Doesn't matter how many accolades you have. When you're about to start out with something else that's big, you are always back at ground zero, and it's terrible. So I'm in the same boat as you. I feel for you. I would say don't have the day one of shoot be booked by anybody else. Say, this is the thing, March 1st, we're doing it. If you want to help out, you can help out. And then that helps out your momentum to then do it. I would also say make sure the script is beyond 80%. It has to be perfect. It has to be this thing that you're going to die, otherwise you do it. It has to get done. And as soon as they say, if you have to ask if you're having a heart attack, you're not having a heart attack. You know it when it hits you. With women, it's different. You're talking about men specifically. Women, heart attacks, don't take medical advice from me. But if you'll know it when it hits you. And sometimes if you're writing something and it's not that, you have to ask yourself, how would this thing hit me? And then drive it to be that, to finish the thing. And then you're so gung-ho about it, you'll talk to everybody about it, and then post about it a bunch, and be like, hey, I'm doing this thing, I'm insane, and I might need help. Can anybody help me out? And often people will come out of the woodwork that you would never expect.
Love it. Awesome. I see someone right in the middle right there. In the white? Yes. Yeah. So how was the festival process for the short film process of your process?
I can go. I was a producer for many years, and a buddy of mine that I produced for is named Danny Madden, and he had many shorts that screened at South by Southwest. And I made the Thunder Road short, and it was on a Saturday. It was a 6-hour shoot. It's one long take, and I submitted it right before the deadline to Sundance. I had never known anybody that had ever gotten into that, or anybody that had known anybody that had gotten into that festival. And it's 13 minutes. It's very impressive. I'm very proud of it. And I thought it was good. And I was trying to make something that was deeply impressive. And they called and said, we'd like to premiere it. And I burst into tears. And that programmer tells everybody I'm a crybaby now. But that was my experience. It's like a glass castle in the sky that you know no idea what they're programming. And then I got on to Short of the Week and watched the Sundance Channel of all of these movies that they've programmed that have ended up online. And it's very counterintuitive. It's like a very perverted set of programmers. And I realized that I had been making stuff without educating myself as to what is the most culturally and socially significant short filmmaking of the last 10 years. And instead, it was just conjecture as to what I thought people would like. So, yeah, I think educating yourself is a very important thing as to what is good short storytelling, and then realize how you do that. But really, just Film Freeway. There's like a great little chapter of the Academy qualifying festivals. Fuck the Oscars, but that's how many people go. Like more people go to see those films and those festivals. And it's pretty simple. It's plug and play. I use a platform called indie.tv. I don't know if you guys know about this, but it's incredible. It's encrypted screeners, and it'll show you how much of the film people will watch and when they watch it. So you'll get an email saying, hey, they started watching it. So afterwards, you can email them in 90 minutes and be like, did you hate the movie? But it definitely fulfills all the neuroses that I have of submitting to a festival and then seeing who's watching it and when. It's helpful.
My short got into Tribeca, and that was like our big moment. And I remember when I got the rejection letter from Sundance, it was like devastating. But what happened was Murray Bartlett, this was in 2019, he was at the screening at Tribeca, and then he loved my movie, and then we like sort of became like pen pals then. And then flash forward 5 years later, when I was looking for actors for the feature version of Pony Boy, I reached out to him to play one of the characters, and then we got into Sundance for the feature. And I guess I bring that up to say is like, you often, particularly for first-time short directors, we think that like if it doesn't get into Sundance or if it doesn't get into Cannes or like, you know, the biggest festivals, that like it's like the end of the world. But you don't know. Sometimes like the artistic path is meandering, and you don't know why you need to go to the festival you need to go to, that then later on, 5 years later, it comes full circle, and then you're where you want it to be. And, you know, so I would just say, you know, to have, like, lead with, like, patience and curiosity around the festival stuff, because at the end of the day, the work will be seen by the people that need to see it, particularly if you, like, put your heart in the right place and we're true to the story.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, that's exactly right. And like I had submitted I submitted like 5-6 shorts to Sundance, and none of them got in. And then my feature got in. But the programmers all knew the shorts.
Right, because they're tracking you.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God, we loved your shorts. And I was like, but you didn't accept them. They're like, yeah, we didn't have room for them, but you know, they were great and we're fans of yours. So like they knew who I was. They were keeping tabs on me. Like they always submit. The other thing I'd say about educating yourself, I think it's really important to be like, what type of filmmaker am I? And does this short match the festival I'm applying to? If you're trying to get a short into South by, Sundance, Cannes, whatever, see what shorts have come out of it, because they all have their specific style. And like, it's so fine if you're not the type of filmmaker to go to Sundance, or you're not the type of filmmaker to go to Cannes, or, you know, there's so many amazing festivals. And just because your style doesn't fit one of the big ones, maybe, you could have a short that goes to like a tiny little festival, and a financer sees it there, and it could win the Oscar. And it could go like this way and then get to the center. So just because it doesn't fit this particular festival doesn't really mean anything. But like, I knew that South by, I was like, I don't think I'm ever gonna get a short into Sundance, but like, I have ideas based on what I see coming out of South by, that like I have ideas that I'm really passionate about for shorts that I think really fit in this world. So like, I'm just gonna focus solely on this festival because it aligns with me. So yeah.
That's great stuff. And then any last question? Yes. Ooh, a question about directing yourself. We have some actors here on the panel who have directed themselves, have also worked with other directors to direct them. So thoughts on that?
I think you make sure the people across from you are really good, because that always helps, you know? And I think it makes sure that, I don't know, it's a hard thing to explain, you know, because it just comes down when you do a take, like, you know if it felt right. Did it feel real? And if it didn't feel real, or if it didn't feel like we mined something special there, then I know it's hard to decide what that is, you know, and you don't want to be going to the monitor. You don't have time to be going to the monitor and looking at yourself and making sure. You almost have to disassociate from yourself. You're another actor in this film. But I think, aside from that, just like innate feeling that was something happened there, I think it comes down to, while on set, while directing, where can you delegate other responsibilities, right? Are you an actor, director who can say action, or should be saying action, and jump into the scene, you know? Leave that to the first AD, right? Whatever you could delegate elsewhere, or on days where it's really intense, right? Communicating with not only yourself, but your collaborators, and let them know that you might need a pick-me-up here. And I think that's probably it's a hard thing to do. It just comes down to did it feel right, and trusting your team so much.
Any other thoughts?
I would say do it 1,000 times. I'm not a trained actor, and so I have a lot of inadequacies of like, I'm not good. I don't think I'm very good, but I do it 1,000 times in the shower and on the commutes over a several month period before I end up on set. And then it becomes muscle memory. And sometimes I film it on an iPhone to watch myself do it. I basically do it 1,000 times beforehand, and then it's any good. And then sometimes that feels stilted. And so I'll have friends of mine on monitor, or crew who I love and trust, who, I mean, most times I'll come out and go, I can do it better. I can do it better. Let's do it again. I can do it better. And it's very common. People, it's like a tightrope. It's like, oh, I can do that better. And then sometimes if you need to cry or something like that, I have like a list of things that make me cry. So I'll pull up that scene in Inside Out where Bing Bong, oh, no spoilers. And then I'll have it on an iPad. And then it'll be just out of frame, and I'll put it down and then go back to it, and then have to get into character and put on a Southern accent and then do the scene. But it works for me. I don't know any acting class that would tell you how to do that, or that would be a thing. But I found out how to cheat code my biology to get a good performance out of it. And then having friends on set be like, yeah, this isn't working. Let's do it again. That's very helpful too.
River, what was it like going from the short where you did direct to the feature, which Esteban Arango directed? What was that like?
It was for as an actor, it was a relief because it was like, oh, like I could just act, and I never thought of the iPad with the movie. I'm like a playlist person, so I like make a sad playlist or like happy playlist, mad playlist. But it was also really frustrating going to film school for directing and having like a director's mentality. And then making peace with the choices that he was making that were beautiful, great choices, but some choices that I would have made differently. And so the process of going from a short where I had a lot more creative agency to the feature where I still had a lot, and he was very collaborative with me. And also I was one of the producers, so I could still wield my influence. But ultimately respecting and trusting that he is the director and I am not. It was really humbling, honestly, but one that made me really respect like directors more. And as an actor, knowing that like it is so amazing to work with a director. And now thank you for asking that, because I was literally like, my next feature I'm going to direct and act, and I'm like. But I think it's amazing that you guys have done that, and so many people are doing that more and more. And I don't know, there's something about the clarity of the vision that happens when the director and actor and writer is holding all those roles.
I think the same thing with like Lena Dunham or Jackie Chan. There is something where an audience has a closer connection with those people, because it's like, oh, this is a humiliating scene. And then you're like, no, wait, they wrote themselves to do that. And it's like, or if Jackie Chan's getting the shit kicked out of him, it's like, you know, you're like, oh, he wrote that so that it's impressive that they're humiliating
Jackie
themselves.
Chan, right?
Yeah, writes, directs, does the fight choreography,
No
and
way.
acts.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
I didn't know that.
I need to watch more Jackie Chan. I'm thinking about that clip of the Denzel's sons in the Criterion Closet talking about the Jackie Chan box set.
box set.
Yeah.
Oh.
Love Jackie
I'm like,
Chan.
that needs to be.
You know what I mean?
So who's got a great last question for our panelists here? Someone at the top. Yes. Oh, wow. Yeah. The question was around what were some of the, going from a short to a feature, what were some of those technical kind of like blowing it up of more people, more money? What was that like?
There's a great scene in Hoosiers, the Gene Hackman film, where they're all going to the big game, and he gets the tape measure out, and he measures the court, and all the players are watching. He measures the net, measures the height. He says the exact same thing. The only thing that's different is going to be 10,000 people in the stadium watching this.
Sorry.
And it's true. Thank you. Really, it's a marathon that you're sprinting, whereas a short film is just a sprint. You kind of have to figure out your sleep status, your work-life balance, make sure that you're healthy while you're doing this thing. But yeah, it's like larger hard drives that you have to work on. Really, the biggest jump is learning how you speak the language of wielding an audience's attention for 90 minutes rather than 10. And that's very different. Sequence editing is something that's an art form that you might not know if you've done 15 short films. It's just been, scenes after scene after scene after scene. In order to get the whole thing to flow, it's a different language that you have to learn how you speak to engage with an audience. I think for me, that's the biggest jump of like, it's a very different way of holding an audience's attention for a long form film than it is for a short form.
That's great.
Know how you're going to edit the movie beforehand. Know your transition points. Make sure you have an in and an out of every scene, every sequence. So like that was something I didn't really know. Like I kind of would always figure it out with shorts, but like the first 15 minutes of my movie, like it was a disaster. Like the beginning of the movie now is totally different than the way it was actually written. And like so many things I was like, well, like I don't have an answer for that. I don't have an answer for that. I don't have an answer for that. I'm so grateful for the experience because now I've learned so much and I'll learn so much at the next time and the next time. That's what it means to be a person living in the world. But intro, outros of every scene. Also, make sure the opening and the closer of your movie are super strong. You know how you're going to shoot those. You have to grab people's attention the first few minutes of your movie, and you have to have a really strong closer. Just know how you're going to edit those. Get a lot of inserts. Have something to cut around if things get messed up. Yeah, that's it.
And I think also a big thing is just being prepared for shit to hit the fan. Like on a short, you might have a couple days of potential problems. On a feature, you've got 15 days, hopefully more if you're lucky, right? Or 14, like you said, of problems that will happen. And they will happen frequently and often. We lost our location twice before getting our final location, which ended up being a blessing because I shot list the movie 3 different times for 3 different locations. And by the time you did it, okay, now I fully see the movie here, you know, even though 8 days prior to shooting, you can't sleep and you think you're screwed and you're gonna have to send everyone home, you're not making a movie. And so I think that that's the case. And you have a whole team of people on the feature. With more problems though comes more support with everyone who's behind you, and you will figure it out. Everything will be okay, even if it seems like it's not going to be. And I think that's just something you have to trust when you're taking that jump.
That's great. Awesome. That was such a good last question. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. Give it up for them.